Hey, Mark.
Yes.
As we continue on your journey towards growth and self-appreciation, we're going to try a new exercise called mindfulness meditation. In order to do this, we're going to need you to put the magazine down. It's going to get rid of the anxiety, the self-doubt, and the depression you've experienced. I want you to lay back. Good. Close your eyes. We're going to turn off autopilot. We're going to turn on your deeper awareness. We're going to go back to one of your best days. It's 2009, the day of the draft. You're with your family, you're with your friends. It's a big day for you, Mark. What were you eating? What was the smell of the food, the environment?
What?
I
don't know, man. We catered food from a restaurant that's not even open anymore.
Okay, was it good?
Yes, it was good.
Walk me through the feeling. Take me back there, Mark.
I don't know, there was excitement in the air. There was anticipation.
Excitement. Hold on to that. The excitement.
Okay.
Your anticipation of this moment you've been working for your whole life.
Yep.
You could have gone anywhere, Mark. You could have gone to Detroit. You could have gone to Jacksonville. You could have gone to Cleveland. But no, the big city came a-calling.
Yeah, that's true.
Rex Ryan and the New York Jets. What was that like, knowing you were going to be embraced by the fans? Take me through the moment you heard it on draft night.
With the 5th pick,
NFL draft, the New York Jets select Mark
Sanchez.
quarterback, USC.
It did feel good. I finally made it, and everybody there in Radio City Music Hall is screaming your name. And oh my God, Gary! Oh, he's booing.
What
Why
the
are you
hell?
Boo me? Boo you! You don't even know me! Oh, I hate you, Gary.
Who is Gary?
GaryVee. GaryVee, entrepreneur, early investor, and Twitter and Facebook.
You got to bury the hatchet. You got to resolve this issue with Gary Vee.
I gotta call him?
You got to call him.
No.
You need to tell him how you feel, Mark. It's the only way you're going to move past this.
All right, we're back on 4th and Forever. You know the drill. But today we're exercising some demons. I gotta show our guest a video, GaryVee, a video that almost ruined our friendship until we met that night on the East River, on a ship, on a boat, a yacht, some would call it. Take me through draft day. Let's watch this video quickly, because I remember all the fun stuff from draft day. Not so fun on your end. Couple good runs with the Jets those first couple years, and then we end up meeting on this boat. So let's go through all that. Can we play the clip real fast?
And with the 5th pick in the 2009 NFL draft, the New York Jets select Mark Sanchez, quarterback, USC.
Oh my God, look at him! What does this mean? What is this?
There was flies. There was flies in it.
Yeah, well, this is a segment called Explain Yourself, brought to you by VaynerMedia.
So, first of all, I loved Brett Ratliff. No. Honestly, here's the funniest part. That was an inside Jets joke.
That was great.
The Jets, here's the real story. The Jets have the 21st pick, or, I'm trying to go off Jets memory here. The Jets have the 21st pick. I mean, I can't wait to hear. I don't know if I've gotten all the stories out of you on this day, but we had the 21st pick, and I'm sitting there trying to think about like how we're going to build and what we're going to do. And now the hubbub is the Jets are on the clock. And I turn to my brother. I'm like, how the fuck are we on the clock? We just traded 4 first 2. Like, you can't go from 21 to 5 like that. Or, I was like, we just gave up 3 number 1s at least. And so, I mean, ready for this? 0.0 minutes of watching you at USC. Like, at that point in my life, I was 100% pro football. So I had no context to any of your stuff. I knew where you were projected mid-rounds and things of that nature because I cared about the draft. But that reaction, at that point, we have no idea what we gave up. If you told me if they were on us 15 minutes later, as a matter of fact, I went to the cameraman. I'm like, can you put us back on? Because once we heard that we only gave up a first and a second, and Brett Ratliff, here we go, Abram Elam, and a defensive, and Kenyon Coleman or something, right? It got a lot better. And then after your opening game against Houston, it got a whole lot better. Actually, even better than that. we're going to get very nerdy. Your first pass as a Jet was in a preseason game, and you threw a bomb, and we literally lost our mind.
That was pretty cool to Clowney on just a
Number
straight
17.
up go route.
Yep.
Yeah. Too funny. So then we go on these runs as a Jet fan, and we'll get into some of those favorite moments for both of us. But I want you to retell the story of when we actually first met, because I didn't know you were you until that night, and then putting everything together like, oh my God, this guy, this is going to be so weird.
Big shout out to Al Frashone, who's I'm sure listening to this. It's still Al's greatest night of his life, because we had those runs. I was extremely close to Kerry Rhodes.
Yep.
And Kerry was, always, his nickname was Hollywood, and was always trying to do, different things. And, we helped him. I don't know if this hit your radar. Kerry was one of the most followed people on Twitter in the NFL as a safety.
Oh, yeah.
And so we were, VaynerMedia, me and AJ and my brother and I were behind all of that growth, and he was a great dude. And we had that run, and that was right after the 2 playoff runs. You literally won 4 road playoff games in 2 years, which is more playoff wins than I've had in my entire 44 years combined outside of you. So I have an enormous amount of love for you and those teams. And a couple of things I remember about that. So he had this event. You showed up. We were fired up because you were the king of New York. And for Jet fans, it was just everything. I remember Vernon Gholston was on the boat that night.
Yep.
In the tightest T-shirt. I mean, for a guy to be that physical of a specimen, and to, obviously he had a very unfortunate career. He was really a huge flop. But I just remember him in that T-shirt.
Painted on. It was painted on.
Mark, do you remember that night? You know who else was there? Francisco Cervelli from the Yankees.
Yeah, the
you
catcher.
Remember? Yes.
Yeah.
You guys were hanging.
Yeah.
Anyway, we had the best night. You were just as a sports fan, you dream about, my life has evolved quite a bit since then. And even at that point, I was starting to be in a place where I could feel like I could meet the, people that I looked up to in sports. But you dream about somebody being down to earth. But more importantly, the thing I'll never forget, and I haven't thought about that night in a while, it was how into fucking football you were. I think the thing that is devastating to fans as they meet guys through the years is they're not as into it as you are. But you were so into it, and we were just all the stories and talking about plays and getting fired up for the following season. That was great. The craziest part about that night, for everybody who's listening, this is all you need to know about this man. I know, obviously, if you're listening to the show, you love this dude. But, all the stories you hear behind his back are true about his humility, humanity, who he is as a guy. He's, uncomfortably... Mark, one of the things I admire about you a lot, and it's what I try to do, which is, people are going to have opinions on the outside, much like my reaction there on that day. It's the people that actually know you, what they say about you. Right. Literally, I was working out today thinking about this. Literally, I was like, oh man, I hope Scotty McKnight's doing well. I come into the Zoom and Scotty's name's here. I'm like, that's the shit I love. Yeah. I love that. And what was really cool about that night was we had this so for everybody's listening, we took one of those classic New York boats. Kerry Rhodes had some sort of party. We all went out on the boat. We come back to the dock. And of course, me and my crew of 4 or 5 guys, my brother and my 3 friends, were all like, Mark, let's hang out after. And he's like, dude, I'm going to meet you guys after. I don't who the knows what the you were up to, but you're like, I need an hour. So literally that whole hour before you're going to meet us at wherever the hell we decide to meet at some sort of hotel bar or restaurant, everyone's like, there's no way he's coming. Right? And I'm like, God,
I had to go do my makeup. I had to go get my GaryVee lower back tattoo.
Get out of here.
The whole thing.
And so you showed up, and I was just I remember thinking man, it was just a really great night that I remember a ton about, including Vernon Gholston's T-shirt and Francisco Cervelli. But the biggest thing was how into football you were, how you were just like us. You remembered the most subtle, basically, Al I watched my most degenerate Jets fan sit next to you and chew you out, not you, ask you for 30 minutes to complain about us trying to run a play before the end of the half against Pittsburgh.
Why did we throw it? We should have handed the ball off.
And
I know.
that's all, by the way, every time a football fan gets pissed at the end of a half when a team deep in their zone doesn't do what they want, which is a Madden bomb. Anyway, it was a great, great night, and I'm really glad to be on the show, and I'm so excited to see all the fruitful things that have been going on in your career, and it's great to be here.
Of course. Yeah, we appreciate you doing this. But I also saw a cartoon strip that's like animated that showed or explained how you became a Jets fan. How did
Yes.
that actually happen?
So I was born in the Soviet Union, so like I've established all the Jets fandom in my family because I didn't have those ties. We, grew up in Russia. Well, not grew up in Russia. Was born in Russia. Came to Queens when I was 4. That's not when I became a Jets fan, which most people think when they hear the Queens part, they're like, oh, because that's
Right.
what the Jets used to play in Queens. Had nothing to do with that because it was the late 70s. My family didn't know anything about American culture. We had 7 family members in a studio apartment. We moved to Dover, New Jersey in 1980 and 81. Nothing there, still basically spoke Russian, went to kindergarten there. We moved in the summer of 82 to Edison, New Jersey. This is where this is the story. I go outside. This is 1982 kid's life. I'm 7. My mom's like, go outside. I just go outside. You're like literally roaming around like streets looking for something to do. My mom at this point is 26 years old. She grew up in Russia. Like you went outside. Wow. Like the 80s were different. You went outside. Yeah. And I met Robbie Turnick first, who's a big Jets fan, who's going to listen to this, so big shout out to him. And then we met Eric Godfrey, who he knew, and they were throwing around a Nerf football. And Eric basically said to me, like, are you a fan? Like, and it's so long ago and I'm so young. I don't even know how much English I did or didn't know, Mark. But like, basically he's like, you're a Jets fan. He basically told me. I was like, I'm a Jets
branded.
fan. I got branded. And what's crazy about this is that was the season the Jets went to the AFC Championship game.
Oh, wow.
They went to the 82 AFC Championship game. They stunned the Raiders in the divisional round on the road, who were the favorites and won the Super Bowl the following year. That was Wesley Walker had a huge game. Wow. Lance Mel had 3 picks. I became the hugest Lance Mel fan. And we went to Miami for the AFC Championship game, and there was a monsoon, and we were an offensive-oriented team, and we lost 14-0 in the Mud Bowl when the Richard Todd threw 3 interceptions to a linebacker by the name of A.J. Dewey. And I cried like a fucking baby. And that was it. I was locked and loaded. I thought it was going to be great. And literally, they didn't make the AFC Championship game again until 98, 16 years later.
Yeah.
I think we won the Chiefs playoff game in 86. Yeah, I won 1 playoff game between 82 and 98. And that was it. And like literally from that moment on, I've literally, and I mean this, I've watched every snap of a New York Jets football game, all of them in real time. It is my religion. It is my passion. It is my escapism. It is my favorite thing. It is why you see the overreactions at the draft. What's not shown there is in those days, because the draft was in New York, I would go all 2 or 3 days. Literally 7th round. Yeah, like 100 people getting pumped about our 7th round picks.
Well, that's great. Like Scotty McKnight.
By the way, that was a subtle reference for Scotty.
Count it.
I remember that pick like yesterday. I'm like, that was Mark's pick.
Is that your favorite moment as a Jets fan?
What's that? The Scotty McKnight draft pick? Actually,
For
Mangold.
real, what is your favorite? If you could pick one.
Let's go into this because this is the truth. And I don't know how you're going to splice the show, but I've said this publicly so much. I have 2 incredible children. I've had an incredibly blessed life. Again, this is not for this show. You can find a million references to this on the internet because that's how I live my life. The single best day of my entire life was the Jets beating the Patriots in Foxborough in the second round of the playoffs in divisional series.
Wow.
Because, as you know, obviously, since you orchestrated it with your teammates, we had lost to them on Monday Night Football 7 or 6 weeks earlier.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to get nerdy because it's fun to be with you. What a lot of people don't know about that game was Jim Leonard got hurt in practice.
Yeah. He did.
The week of that game, and basically that was devastating because you don't like getting hurt for the year in practice is something even the most cynical, highly emotional fans kind of don't expect. You don't expect that.
Right.
And I remember getting that phone call and like being dead. Like that was I thought he was such a huge part of that defense. And then we go to Foxborough Monday night, and I remember Brady did a fist pump to our sideline after they went up like 21-0 early, and it just like I wanted like his life to end at that moment. I was so pissed. So here we are. We get destroyed by them. They are who they are. We get into the playoffs. We win our first round game. And it was just unbelievable to me. What was that? We beat the Colts, right?
Colts, yeah, late. Remember Cromartie had the big return.
I remember it like yesterday. I remember you threw the pass to
Braylon.
Braylon,
Right on the sideline, yeah.
And we won that game.
My call, by the way. My call, by the way.
Really? Tell me.
Yeah.
Tell me.
So that
I love
one,
it. I live for this.
we called this play hitches and sticks, so we just combined them and called it hick. Had nothing to do with the white person reference.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, it was just inside sticks and outside hitches in a quick game, easy play. And if anything happened on the outside with any kind of press, you just get fades on the outside. And so we called the timeout before, and we're trying to come up with a play, and we're talking about running slants, we're talking about running all these different plays. And it was the first time.
Wait a minute, real quick, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah,
you just
good.
charged something. On the first play of that draft, Braylon caught a pass and fumbled and recovered it, right? Do you know?
Yeah, he actually
do you
did.
Remember that?
He actually did.
Holy
yes.
shit!
So
I love
Cromartie
this.
brings it way back out. Braylon fumbles,
which was
recovers.
everything.
Yes.
Yep.
And then we're right on the edge of field goal range, and we got to throw it so we don't burn a timeout, potentially, whatever.
I remember that play
the field goal
yesterday.
team's going to potentially run on. And so we have all these different options, and we've run hick a bunch of times that game. So I was like, Dustin, first, which for me was like, I was scared to do it, but I was also feeling that moment, and I just kind of waved off the sideline and was just like, hey, DK for Dustin. I'm like, DK, just YMO to double, and we're going to run hick. All right, we're just going to go quick game hick. We good? And he goes, yeah, if you want. I mean, whatever. And everybody's like, cool. Like, nobody really said anything. I said, all right, we're just going to do this. And boom, we're going up to the line of scrimmage. I remember Shotty like, hey, what's good? And the headset cuts out. And boom, we motion Dustin over.
It was a
just
huge
quick
play.
Quick
I remember
throw,
it like
quick
yesterday.
fade. And it's like, in those moments, you're like, what do I know? What plays do I know like the back of my hand? What do I know by heart? What do I love?
The matchup was
if I'm
great.
I'm going down swinging like this. Like, this is a big, tall receiver. He's on fire right now. Feed him. Feed the studs. When they're hot, give them the ball. And that was exactly what we did. He goes and makes that catch, and then Brunel's screaming in the locker room after the game, did you see the game-winning field goal hold? Did you see the hold? He's screaming at everybody. That was fun, man.
You know, obviously what's so crazy about that game was that literally the playoff game we played prior to that was the AFC Championship game in Indy.
Yeah.
When Calvin Pace and Leonard had that fumble recovery, and 17-7, Blake Snell, a Jets backup tight end in 1998, blocked a punt in Mile High when they were pinned back, and we punched it in, and we went up 10-0 in the AFC Championship game on the road.
Yeah.
That moment and the moment when Pace and Leonard had that fumble recovery, I think Pace made the hit, Leonard picked it up. Those were the only two moments for even a second that I thought, oh my God, I'm going to the Super Bowl.
Dude, I did too. So
that play and the touchdown Kerry Rhodes is one of my favorite humans on earth, but I still always give him a little something because I always thought he should have made a play on the ball before the end of the half when they scored, and you could just feel it. Yeah, you could always. I just remember go ahead.
That championship game, my rookie year, we're on top at halftime, and I go in
17-14.
at halftime like, oh my God, like
we're 30 minutes away.
Holy crap. Like, this is crazy. Then we go out the second half, and I remember their offensive coordinator for Peyton Manning and the Colts, Tom Moore, is on the sidelines, and he calls in the plays to Peyton. Well, the entire second half, he shook off every call, and he started calling his own. We learned this from Tom Moore later when he became one of our consultants.
I remember. Yes, I remember.
So he said, I couldn't even call in a damn play. Peyton kept shaking me off, so I just turned off the headset. I was like, what? And Rex goes, wait, what? He goes, you weren't calling the plays? He goes, no wonder why they were kicking our ass. He goes, because Peyton was calling his own stuff. I was like, oh my God. So all of us in the room just...
I love that. Anyway, let me answer the question. I know I'm going to me, my brother, old Lugano, because there's a little Lugano who adores you, and Sam Ben Ruby are the only 4 Jet fans that decide to go to Foxborough for that playoff game.
Wow.
When I tell you driving up I-95 to go to that game, I literally thought I was going to get like murdered. Like I've never felt that way. It felt like, I don't know if I've ever been more sure that we were going to lose a football game than that game. Like completely no chance, I just didn't see it. And there was a kid in front of me, 3 rows in front of me, who was the worst and was getting out of his mind and was all over us and just screaming and yelling.
Yeah.
And, I'm so scared to not see a play that I don't even talk on the road. I don't even have a conversation with anybody because I'm not looking for any excuse for the opposing security to kick me out. And so we just had to eat it. And obviously, what I remember so much about that game was their opening drive, they just marched. And then the David Harris interception.
Yep.
And I just remember that interception happened. And then, we got down to the 8 or 10 or 11. And of course, you remember, like, we weren't able to move the ball. And then we missed a chip shot field goal.
I know.
Which I still think is good. I don't know if you guys want to run the footage.
It was such a slow start to the game, and we are so juiced up, but we were in control of that slow start. It felt like
in a real way.
It always felt like something good was coming. We got the pick, but we didn't capitalize. And then everybody kind of had this realization as the second quarter started. It's like, you don't get these opportunities against the Patriots. Like, it just doesn't happen, especially in Foxborough. Like, it's time to take advantage. And everybody finally cut loose and just let go and played. They balled.
You played out of your
so fun.
Your pass to both Santonio and to LT on the left side there. They were like, you were in your zone. Jericho did what he always did against the Patriot. I'll never forget that play that you passed him over the middle.
The Jericho touchdown the LT touchdown out of trips, Jericho ends up drawing the coverage because he had that touchdown or 2-point conversion, I want to say, the first game of the year against them in MetLife. So that was the counter off of that play. And then the other one was the one that Santonio scores in the back of the end zone. Same play as Braylon's catch before in the divisional game. In the wild card game. It's the same hick play.
That.
But it just converted to a fade, and a different coverage gave us a different route, and that was the touchdown.
Jericho, literally earlier in his career, in a wild card game in Foxborough, took a play like 70 yards on the Patriots. He had the huge play with your reaction to that play, by the way, that little kind of like crossing pattern, and then Jericho breaks it for like 65 or whatever.
Fish. It was called fish, yeah.
I remember that game. Then the quick pass you threw to Braylon, he just ran over dude.
Cover 0. Yep. They brought the house, and we had a one-step slant to Braylon.
When Sean Green scored that touchdown, I was devastated.
Went to sleep.
The pillow was great, but I was pissed because I wanted him to fall short and run out the clock.
I know.
And sure enough, they scored, and now I'm shitting my pants. Just completely. And I don't know if you remember the onside kick. It also got a little weird, but Crow picked it up.
Yes.
Winning that game. I mean, think about how well I'm describing this game. That game.
That's really funny.
That game was everything. That dude tries to leave when Sean Green scores the touchdown, the drunk dude in front of me. Not only did you have maybe your best athletic game, I had my best athletic game. I was 6 seats in. This drunk dude is trying to leave quietly after heckling and destroying us for 3.5 quarters. I literally dive. This is real. I dive over my brother and then like 4 other people we didn't even know and grabbed him as he was trying to leave. 6 seats over. I dove and just yelled, "Where the f*** do you think you're going?" And the craziest part of that,
You watched this ass whooping.
we won this game. The receivers do their flips.
Oh yeah.
Bart does his thing. We all convene down, going crazy. And I spent at least 10 minutes spitting on the ground on Foxborough. Just a degenerate. Like, this place, this is a hole. Who the wants to live in Foxborough? This is literally the worst city in the country. Just losing my, like, lost complete control.
Oh, you're sick.
It was the best. And then Pittsburgh, it's funny. This is really interesting. Back to Al, who like chewed your ear off that night. We go to Pittsburgh. Obviously, first of all, the pass interference call on Bart Scott in the opening drive is something I still can't get over because I feel like momentum, all that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had the atrocious start, second half, all that stuff. We lose. We walk to the stadium because we had a hotel that was close across the Three Rivers, and I'll never forget it. There was just something, when you're so in tune with something. I grabbed Al's shoulder and I said, look back. We didn't say a word. Game ends. Not a word was said. About 20 minutes into the walk, I grabbed his shoulder, and we can see the stadium and way back. We'd walk the whole way, and I said, look. I said, hey, look, back at the stadium. He said, what? I said, look. I have a bad feeling it's going to be a long, long, long time before we're back. And we haven't been to the playoffs since.
Which brings us to our New York City Blues. The 2 New York teams, Gary V, are the worst in the NFL. They got to be the worst. Broncos, Vikings, Texans, Falcons, Jets, and Giants, all 0-3. Let's talk the Giants for a second. They're missing Saquon. They're missing Sterling Shepard, Jabril Peppers. I mean, they get crushed by a depleted San Francisco team. I don't even know what to do. Danny Dimes is their obviously their top passer. He has 179 yards. It's like a preseason game. And then he's their leading rusher with 49 yards.
Look, there's a good 170. By the way, there's a good 179 and a bad 179. In the system that you ran, you had
179
right?
was great, but we were rushing for 250.
Correct. Look, they're in a bad place. They're in a bad place. I'll be very honest with you. I hate the Giants with all my heart. So I've consumed very little. I love Daniel. My brother left 5 years ago and followed his full passion, and we started a sports representation business. So now Vayner Sports is in the football business, and we drilled it on Danny Dimes. When he was at Duke at a 4th, 5th round pick, we started recruiting him heavily. We were in the final 2 with CAA for him. Yeah, we were very, very, very close. We were in the final 3 for Sam.
Though. I think he's going to be good.
But I don't really know what's around him. Saquon is such a classic. I really hate the Giants, but he's tough to dislike as a human. He's incredible, and obviously that injury is devastating. I don't know what's going on there. Now, we at Vayner Sports have multiple Giants. We rep Leonard Williams, former Jet. So that's super fun. Yeah, USC.
Yeah, baby.
We rep Darnay Holmes. And so he's a slot corner for them. We rep Isaac Yiadom, who they just traded for from Denver at the corner.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of Giants. So I definitely have thawed out my hate because I love my guys. But, I'm not sure. I can't speak to their issues. I, on the flip side, know a lot of what's going on the green side.
Yeah, okay, let's go there. Let's go right there. And I said this publicly last week, when you invest all this money, this is a business idea, right? And a football idea, because it is a business. When you invest your money in Le'Veon Bell, CJ Mosley, and for whatever reason, whether it's circumstance or injury or whatever, if they don't give you any return on that investment,
you're dead.
What are you supposed to do? It's dead money. And that's kind of where the team's at. There's no playmakers, there's no household names other than people you would know because you're a diehard fan. And you put them up against the top 10 offenses in the league. What are you supposed to do? It's dead money. And that's kind of where the team's at. There's no playmakers, there's no household names other than people you would know because you're a diehard fan. And you put them up against the top 10 offenses in the league. What look at the rosters. Tell me one player on the Jets that could start for any of those teams.
Listen, it is uncomfortably crazy where the Jets are on their injury report. They are. Sam Darnold is one. I think I read this, that Sam Darnold's like the only starter, one of their offensive linemen that hasn't missed a snap. I mean, we're 3 weeks in. We're on receiver 6 and 7. By the way, I'm fired up about Braxton Berrios. I think he's going to be like a real slot receiver in this league.
Yeah.
But like, we are actively right now on receiver 6 and 7.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing else to say.
The roster looks like it did in 2013, 2014, my last 2 years there. It really does.
Remember, I mean, people,
it's the
funny.
same
People,
issue. We're getting guys off the couch the week before to come play on our
Clyde
team.
Gates. I mean, these are, by the way, these are
Like-
real. Listen. If you make, this is my favorite, by the way, this is my favorite thing about fans and sports. Clyde Gates, big shout out. David Clowney, we mentioned him earlier. Braxton Berrios right now. Like, if you make the NFL, you are literally, by math, one of the 1,500 greatest football players in the world.
100%.
And fans talk about them like they could do it. So
Right.
I always struggle when we talk about this because I know the level of quality of like a practice squad football player, how great that player actually is. But we're talking fan talk here and analyzing talk. Listen, the number one job I would not want to have is Joe Douglas's. Joe has to make a decision on Sam, and he has dirty data. His dirty data. The Jet, Mike Tenenbaum, was able to do a really good job. I remember when we traded for Santonio, for Braylon, and look, there was baggage, but I was pumped because we were giving our young quarter. I mean, first of all, the Pete Kendall, like the offensive line things we were doing, the running backs, we were doing a lot of great things. You were. By the way, I think a lot of people forget this. Your college coach, Pete Carroll, like you were a raw, young quarterback and
Very
started,
young.
right? Like, how many games did you play at USC?
16.
It's crazy how the comps of you and Sam have. There's obviously differences, but the similarities are wild.
It's weird.
Joe Burrow is older than Sam right now.
I know.
So
Sam's been
when you
in the
have
league
that,
a couple years. They were working out in Orange County, and I go see. I was just like, "This is crazy."
they are these are very, very young talents. You see it happen, and it's hard and circumstantial. Like I'm on tilt watching Bills fans talk Josh Allen versus Sam, and I'm like, cool, but like it'd be nice to see what Sam would do with Stephon Diggs and Brown, and
swap places. Like, could he have some of these big time plays that Dak Prescott has? I think so.
By the way, I used you as a comp to somebody about, because I told one of my Jet buddies I'm doing your show, and I was like, I got to ask Mark, because I think it's a really important thing. He had a different skill set of weapons around him early in his career versus later with the Jets. Though you already mentioned it, those last couple of years, he was clearly a more mature, more experienced. I don't want to use you'll talk for yourself, but like you assume that you've gotten your feet wet. You've been in the league. You've been through two AFC Championship games. You probably understand the delta of how much it matters because you knew what you were doing in the first couple of years and what those players were doing for you. Not to mention, like Brad Smith coming in, like all those looks. We were doing so many things.
Yeah.
Talent matters. Leon Washington,
100%.
Talent matters.
100%. And when you lose those weapons and you're as competitive as I am, and I saw it a little bit with Sam last week, and that's my only fear, is that you start to press. You start to try and fix everything with your arm. You start to like, all right, I don't care. I'll make it work. Boom, and you're just jamming a ball in like John Gruden used to say, you're jamming sand up a gnat's ass. He said, hey, man, you know how small a gnat's ass is? I'm like, ooh, good point. So that's kind of where you go if you're competitive like that. Now, some other guys, when they haven't had a ton of weapons, have maybe done better, but it's hard.
Fans are not educated either. When you watch the film, Xavier Rhodes made a mistake on the end zone pick. He made a mistake. Sam made the right read.
Yeah.
But that's what happens.
Right. And then it all goes on Sam. That's what's, you know, that's what's frustrating for me. I guess
I'm very worried. I'm worried that Joe's in a tough. If the Jets have the number 1 pick, and and Trevor Lawrence is going to be the best prospect since Andrew Luck, for sure. Maybe
but
the best
problem
one
is
since-
you put him on the same crap team.
I agree. Whereas
So-
I'm on the record saying trade the number 1 pick, which is an all-time pick, for 5 first 2-round
Right.
picks. You've got the 3rd most money in the league. By the way, on the record, I was uncomfortably down on McCagnon. That was a very tough time for me.
Yeah.
Again, what's so fun about me producing content is I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking. I disliked him and what he was doing the whole way. We needed listen, Josh McCown's one of the best humans on earth. I love him. I know him. I love him. He was our going into the season starting quarterback. We had the 5th pick in the draft. You've got Deshaun Watson and you've got Patrick Mahomes. They go 7-10, and we take Jamal Adams, a safety in the modern NFL. Back to your point, look, Lev is a beast, CJ's a beast, but you don't spend your free agency money on running backs and middle linebackers in today's NFL. But
Right.
then, Mark, to give me the kiss of all kisses of I'm on tilt with Jamal, though I love Jamal's attitude and I know he's going to be a good
Me
player.
too.
I don't want to
It's the wrong
draft
fit.
defense. I don't want to draft defense anymore. We draft defense every year. Sheldon
who are you
and
telling?
D. Milner. I know you know. And you were, by the way, you were the last guy we drafted offense prior to
I
Sam.
know.
You.
Before Sam. So I'm like,
So,
guys,
so in
this
the first
isn't,
round,
like,
so
hard to figure
but
out.
Mark, we drafted Marcus May in the 2nd round. We took safety. So anyway, nonetheless, Joe's job is that's going to be a tricky spot. But if I'm running the Jets, I'm trading that pick for 4 picks. I really like. I mean, the Becton thing. God willing, the health scared me this week with the shoulder.
Yeah.
I've been around football I watch it so real. I'm so in this. I don't need to see another thing. I already know what we have with him, which is insane to me how good he is. And you start building. You gotta give the kid talent. You gotta give the kid talent.
I agree. If you had to give the Jets a pregame speech before the Thursday night football game against
By the way, I
Denver
saw a clip
Broncos.
on Twitter with you and Willie, and you're right. By the way, not only am I going to give every pregame speech if my coach lets me when I own the Jets one day. I might even coach. I'm going to make the Jerry Jones and Cubans of the world. First of all, I don't want to undermine who I hire, so I'm going to be very upfront. By the way, funny that we mentioned this. I want the 7th round pick every year, personally. Because at that level, you're in UDF category, so let me go with character and that kind of stuff. I love that.
Yep.
And I'm a very big fan of drafting quarterbacks more than NFL teams do now. I think, and the Jets actually did it this year. They took a quarterback in the 4th round, which surprised a lot of people. That's a little bit my style. I think it's just too important. Everything revolves around it in quite a bit, unless you get really like top defense, top running game, offensive line. So anyway, I think that I'm very worried. The Jets are in a real pickle. They have to pick up that option. It's a lot of money, right? Like you really haven't
Sam,
been.
you're talking about.
Yeah, that's right. There's no way to figure out what to do there. You're not going to get any data this year. What data are you going to get?
See, that's the problem. If the season becomes a wash, then what's Sam really doing? He's trying out potentially for other teams, which could be better suited for him, right? Like, credit to Jamal Adams in a weird way because he found his way to a team that was the right match. It just didn't fit. Square peg, round hole, whatever the circumstances are, it doesn't matter.
On that front, I think players need to do what's right for players, and I think teams need to do what's right for teams. When a
Right.
player does what Jamal does, I'm like, guys, look at Tariq Cohen. He doesn't sign that extension literally the week before he tears his ACL last week, right? So what do you feel? I know the kid a little bit. I like him a lot. He's a great kid. I'm happy for him. On the flip side, there's a Bears organization. I promise you right now, if the Jets make that extension, as a fan, I'm dead. I'm dead because I know what the difference would have been in dead money, real money, cap hit.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the NFL is a real interesting, difficult challenge for owners, coaches, GMs, and players.
All right, well, when you get the job as the owner, I would just like to consult every once in a while, and I definitely want a swag bag. That's it.
Oh, and then we also have to do like a memory lane thing. Like we're gonna have to do like it's gonna take me another 20 years, so we're gonna have to do like a 40th anniversary of the 4 playoff wins. By the way, the San Diego game, as much as I was shocked, bro, as much as I was shocked in that game against the Patriots, I was equally within the same realm on that. They won 11 in a row. They were so hot. That game was that was such a great game. You and Keller, I love Dustin. We're very friendly and like
he's the best.
He's the best dude, and I love him. And like your chemistry, I remember that Bengals playoff game, your first playoff game. Yeah. That kind of like that 40, 50-yard play you had with him in that game. You guys had some real chemistry during those runs.
That's fun. Okay, Jets Broncos. We're talking this week, Thursday Night Football. These are 2 teams 0-3. Right, so this is kind of a measuring stick for both teams, and you have your top NFL teams, right? Those top 8 teams-ish, 6 teams, and then there's a bunch of teams in the middle that are kind of going up and down every week, and then there's this bottom tier. Now, if you lose and go 0-4, if you're the Jets, I mean, it puts you like the bottom tier. Now, all that Trevor Lawrence talk, all this crap comes into your lap. Can they be competitive? What's your prediction on the game?
I haven't seen enough Broncos football. I definitely don't have a good enough read on this Rippin kid.
Yeah, they got their backup Rippin. What else?
Their third string,
Drew Lock's
right?
out. They still got Noah Font. They lost a bunch of guys on defense.
All the defense, right? I saw. Look, man, we are not in a good. I actually think this is a great game for Jets Nation because Jets Nation is on full tilt with Coach K's, and I think if they go out and lose this game in a significant way. There's going to be some real problems because this is by far the worst team that they're going to play.
Yeah.
I think that they are going to win this football game.
At least they have their starting quarterback, right? Like that gives them at least a leg up. They're playing at home. It's nice.
Home doesn't mean as much now, right?
Not as much without fans, but still something. I'm trying to look for any advantage.
I'll be honest with you. I think it's a real toss-up game. If the Jets lose 21-7 this game, I'll have zero shock. I really will. Like, I don't know what listen, Cortland's healthy or no? Sutton, do you know?
Don't know. I think he's still questionable.
The bottom line is it's not good. I mean, it may be the lowest rated Thursday night football game in the NFL's history.
Yeah, this could be low.
Unless you were a Jets and Broncos fan at my level, you're not going to watch this football game. Now, I will say this. To go very nerdy in Jets land, almost everybody starts to come back at week 5 and 6.
Of course.
You got Mims, the second-round receiver pick, who we all want to see, but we know he's raw, so we're going to have to be patient. Crowder's coming back. Perryman's probably the week after. Like the Cardinals game, and definitely the week after, is when everybody hits. So I will say that there's a part of me that is excited to see Sam in weeks 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, because I think we're going to have most of our offense back. And look, Perryman, when we're fully stacked, Perryman, Hogan, Braxton Berrios, Crowder are not what the NFL is about these days from a receiving talent. Lev,
right.
But at least it's a lot more than what we've seen the last 2 weeks.
There's not a ton of depth, yeah. But people, millions of people every single day look to you for motivational speeches or something to cheer them up. Just give me, a couple sentences for Jets fans this week.
I think we have a Hall of Fame left tackle. I actually believe that.
There we go.
And so that's good. I personally believe that a lot of people know that Sam has it. I think real Jet fans have seen enough in the improv, can quantify the talent around him. And I think if you're looking for optimism, it's left tackle, and quarterback. It's a big deal. And I think next year with the ungodly amounts of cap room, with a GM that I believe is the best since Mike T, that we've had, if you're going to make the assumption on Sam and the left tackle, you're going to have a lot of money. You're going to have 2 first-round picks. You're going to have an early first and second-round pick. The Jets can be one of those teams that turn it around fast if all those
Right.
things are true. And I don't think it's far-fetched to think Sam's good. Mark, I'd like to know from your perspective. I think you really understand this, like, on a different level. Like, and obviously, because of the Jets, USC, Sam, like, I get it, but, like,
Yeah.
to the most raw and real you can say, like, you've seen things that make you say, oh, there's things there.
Oh, 100%. There's flashes. It's all circumstantial. So long as he can, continue to eliminate turnovers and not get hit, he's going to be fine. It's just weathering this storm, right? And if that storm gets too big and he goes down with an injury or he starts pressing, that's where he'd get into trouble. But the ball the other day of him rolling to the left and just kind of flicking the ball to a receiver going the opposite direction, you don't get that from every quarterback in the league. That's like top 10 quarterback arm ability and arm strength and pulling a play out of his ass. It's incredible.
Me and my brother, we call him backyard. We call him Sandlot Sam, right? He's got that Roethlisberger thing.
Yes, because he almost has to do it. So then at a certain point, when you get him the talent that can keep him in rhythm at least a handful of times a game and that can take a screen pass and boost his confidence because it went for 40 yards because the guy broke a tackle, now he's going to start getting into a rhythm. Then you get into a couple of third and manageables and boom, one of these plays pop. Then when he has to convert a 3rd and 13, not for the 5th time in the row, but one time a half maybe, then something happens. If you hit on 50% of those third and 13s, you're on fire. You know what I mean? So the numbers will even out. Everything will even out. It's just the timing of it. Can he withstand this incredible storm right now? That's my only fear for him. And there's nobody rooting for him, well, other than you maybe, like me, because I love this kid. I've seen him work out. I know how much it means to him. I mean, he's pouring his heart and soul into this thing, and he's not getting a ton of return on his investment yet. But I really do think good things are around the corner if they can stick with him.
I will be devastated if they let him walk, because I'm completely convinced he's going to do more than Tannehill's doing in his walking. I really believe that. I really genuinely believe it. I see it. I watch so much football.
Too.
I really watch a lot of Sam.
People would be pissed, right? If he goes somewhere else and takes somebody on a playoff run and
Mark, I'm still pissed about Jeff Blake, who was a quarterback we took in the 6th round, and we let him go and had a nice career with the Bengals.
Yep, that's wild. Okay, so transition a little bit here to the highs and lows of business versus the NFL. I mean, talk about some of your personal highs, some of your personal lows of business and how it relates to the NFL. But I mean, some notable things, whether it's, where do you hide your crystal ball? Because Twitter, Uber, and Facebook, I mean.
Yes, but let's go to the Uber one. Travis Kalanick was literally, at the time that Uber was created, one of my best buds in the business world. He asked me to invest in Uber in the angel round. I passed because I just bought an apartment in New York City and I wasn't as liquid as I wanted to be. They were also doing it as a side hustle. It wasn't originally going to be their main thing. Them, meaning Garrett Camp, the guy who came up with the idea. It started getting a little traction. They came back to me. They're like, Gary, you're our guy. You should be in Uber. I passed. If I wrote a $50,000 check, which was the size of the investments I was making back then, Mark, that investment would have made me $400 million. So to me, passing on Uber in that environment is similar to, the Jets not drafting Patrick Mahomes, a couple years ago. Instead, they took Jamal Adams. They were in a position they needed a quarterback. By the way, Deshaun Watson would have been just fine. And oh, by the way, and I love Sam, and I'm very honestly, like, when they're yours, they're yours. So, like, I'm happy to have Sam more than but don't forget, we also traded 3 early round picks for Sam. So if you took Watson or Mahomes, you would have came back the next year because you traded
with
Sheldon Richardson for.
Yes.
Now you could have taken Quentin Nelson at 6.
Yeah.
Right? Like the Colts did. So, like, anyway, that was a huge miss. You know what's funny? And I've got a good one. I wonder if this will resonate with you. I'll use the analogy of watching film on Monday. I think the biggest mistakes I've made in business were the things that I didn't do, were the meeting I didn't go to, the investment I didn't make, unlike what you get to do, which probably sucks at the time, but it's kind of cool for your own knowledge, that you got to see the missed opportunity, right?
Right.
And learn from it. I don't in business. So that's one thing that I love about football. The film is there, and in business you don't know. You don't know that if you took that meeting, it would have led you to meeting this gal. She would have given you the insight that led to you investing in Tesla.
That butterfly
you know what I mean?
effect. Yeah. Of course. So yeah, with the football side of it, you see the missed opportunity. You literally, right after you watch that tape, you go outside and you're either walking through that exact play, that exact situation, to the effect that they put the situation on the scoreboard in a practice field, in a practice setting, saying, hey, there was a minute 30 left. Here's what we did. Here were our options. Here's what could have been better. And we potentially go through 3 or 4 different options. If we burn the timeout here, that means we're doing this. If we clock the ball here, we got to go for it on 4th down. So you live out these situations, you live out all these variables, which gives you such an advantage the next time. And then the most important thing the next time is saving that in your mental Rolodex. And then when that slide comes up again, boom, I know what to do. Because we burned the timeout last time and we shouldn't have. This time we're going to clock it. Boys, I know what to do. Let's handle it. You know, so you do have that luxury in football.
I want to ask you about an adversity moment that was like, as a Jets fan, like I was really worried in your rookie year, and I've always wanted to ask you this, so I'm taking advantage. The Buffalo game in your rookie year when you threw 5 picks, I think.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I remember the 5th one, like everything coming out of my body, because you know, at that point when you're a fan and you've got this big rookie quarterback and you came out 3-0. I texted you the other day about the scramble you had against Tennessee and ran it in. Like that moment, I was like, this guy's going 78. So, you know, you're just so hyped. Everything's so magnified. And that Buffalo game, you know, we started working with the Jets, VaynerMedia, doing marketing. And Matt Higgins was the president of the Jets.
Higgins,
yes,
yeah.
remember Matt? And like I just remember that Bills game. Like I texted him, I'm like, I want to tweet things. He's like, you can't, do not tweet things. I'm like, I'm very upset. And he's like, no. I was like, I told you I'm a fan first. I've always wanted to know from your perspective, because so early in your career.
Yeah.
Give me like something. When I say that, what do you remember after the game? What do you when I just say that? What do you remember?
One of my most vivid memories is trying to fit a ball in to Braylon, and I mean, we're talking like being real nitpicky. It was about 6 inches high, right here on a quick little snag route, we used to call it. And I fit it in between 2 defenders, and boom, it went like right off his hands, right? If I would have put it, you know, 6 inches lower, literally like a ball circumference lower, we're talking the ball gets batted down to the ground, right? Because once you throw it, numbers are in higher, it's going up in the air. Numbers in lower, usually it's going down. So this ball gets tipped up in the air, and I don't remember if this was the 4th or 5th pick, but I was just like, that was so deflating. And I remember after the game being so pissed, and it was Shoddy, it was Tannenbaum, it was Rex, and they're like, listen, we understand, you're down in the dumps. Here's a list of other quarterbacks who've thrown 5 picks in a game. Like, it's gonna be okay, because your life's not over, right? In that moment, as a rookie, you're like, my life's over. It was the Sandlot when he just gets smacked by the ball. You're just like, I'm done.
Mark, who was the best veteran in that locker room for you during that run?
I remember, after the game, I was so pissed and just down in the dumps. And I remember Chris Jenkins walked by. I was like, damn, Rook. I mean, how many times are you going to give the ball to the other teams? We're wearing white today, or whatever. You know, we're wearing green today. And I was like, damn, like, what a dick. But at the end of the day, I knew that was his way of just like,
chin up.
Figure it out. Because we have a good team, and we're going to win. Like, we're going to do our job. As soon as you want to do yours, we're going to be pretty damn good. So that was kind of like a challenge.
He was fun. He was fun.
Freaking hilarious. But then, you know, other guys on defense,
player.
Bart Scott, all those guys, then it became a running joke, like later in the year, hey, Sanchez, don't forget we're in green today. You know what I mean? Like a joke for the defensive coaches, whatever, just to be funny, but to like jab me, to remind me of where I was and where I needed to go, for us to be good because they knew I was a competitor. So you just had to light that fire, and it was on. But I felt like the one thing that kept me really fighting that year, because it was like this roller coaster of emotions, and it felt like a lifetime of emotions. But we almost won the game with 5 interceptions.
I remember.
You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, somebody finally made that point, and it kind of clicked like, dude, we're okay. We almost won with 5 interceptions. We rushed for almost 300 yards. Like, so just clean up, just like a little bit better, and we'll be fine. So that kind of coupled with Jenkins, with Bart, with, you know, Mike T, Shoddy, and Rex pumping me up, reminding me that Peyton Manning, you know, John Elway, all these guys have thrown 5 picks in a game. It's not the end of your career. So figure it out, and we'll be just fine. Just watch the tape, get better. So that was, that's funny you bring that up. I remember James Gandolfini was on the sidelines before the game. I remember the exact long sleeves that I wore, and I didn't want to wear them before the game, but I did. And they had this like gray little line on them, and I thought they looked shitty. So that's probably why.
Brother,
I don't know.
You know what's crazy? You know what's
funny.
crazy about that season? That night game against the Bengals
Yeah.
to get into the playoffs was the coldest
crazy.
night. Do you know how
Oh
many
my
football
God.
games I've been to? It was so cold.
Dude,
I
was
wore
freezing.
a T-shirt. We went to Cincinnati. We played them. We beat them, and then we went to them for the playoff game the next week. And literally, it was cold, but it was like 30, and I wore a
Yeah.
T-shirt because it was so cold in New York that night.
I know you talked about this in the future. I know you speak things into existence, but let's talk about you owning the Jets. And I'm dead serious. I want to be a consultant if that happens.
It's done. Putting in
But
firm now.
Today, to improve the Jets, what do you do to build for long-term success and a chance at a Super Bowl today? Like, how do we handle it?
I think it's a you know, I don't have a good read on Chris and Woody and what they're doing there. I'm an insane believer in Joe Douglas. You know, I knew Coach Gase a little bit in Miami days. You know, he's been super head down these 2 years because it's been rough for him. It's all the same thing. You know this. You live this. Your time as quarterback, you had a head coach, you had a GM, you had an owner, and the ebbs and flows of your continuity of those 4, 5, 6 years, you know there were times where the 5 of you, the 4 of you, the 3 of you, the 2 of you were communicating well, and you knew there was times that you weren't. I know the same thing in all my businesses. When you run a business fully, it gives you great insight. Like, there's times where things are clicking and when it's not. The only way for organizations to really dominate is when the 5 or 6 key pieces are actually communicating and are actually on the same page and are actually in that place. And, you know, that ebbs and flows. That ebbs and flows. And so I think if I owned the Jets, I would make sure that my starting quarterback, my coach, and my GM, that I felt that 3-headed monster had crazy, crazy relationship graph. And that's what I, as an owner, would spend ungodly amounts of time. And there are many other things that matter, but I am uncomfortable as somebody who wants to win a Lombardi for the Jet fan base to look the other way if those 3 things are not clicking. And I would be willing to be patient but decisive to get that combo right. Thoughts?
Oh, dude, you nailed it. Those 3, because if those 3 are intact, then you're building around that quarterback, and essentially it's a 5+ year plan to get to where you want to go, and understanding that you're going to take shots, right, from the media, from outside influence, but just stay in, not to your own detriment, like you're in this vacuum where you can't take criticism or try and get better, or it's just completely unrealistic. But don't overown the good, don't overown the bad. Keep it real, right? Keep it in that real level, not just ideal, but real. And that's one of the most important things. I love the way you said that. And then moving to business side of the NFL, the Raiders in Vegas, you like it, love it, hate it?
Love.
Does it feel like? Go
No,
ahead.
I think
I'm curious on your
from a
thoughts.
I mean, it's going to be the greatest once the world reopens. Every single road team, like, I was dead when I saw the Jets were playing the Raiders at home this year. Now it turned out okay because of COVID, but the Jets road game to the Raiders now is like the must leave on Thursday night, have the best 4 days. I mean, I think it's great. The Raiders, Honestly, I hate the Raiders. I hate everybody but the Jets. But I actually felt nice for that fan base when I saw the stadium the other night. Obviously not full and all that, but they've been playing in a shithole baseball stadium for fucking, I think it's a good situation. Vegas is an incredible sports town. They support that hockey team incredibly well.
I know.
They support UNLV well. They support their AAA baseball team well. That's going to be a really good situation.
I like that. Then what about you know a lot about this media and branding and getting your message out there. What do you do with the Washington football team? How do you rebrand them appropriately?
I mean, as long as you don't do anything that can be construed as tone deaf, you're gonna be okay because people are gonna settle in. Like, they're gonna settle in. I think what I mean by that is people are gonna hate or like a name. That's just what happens. And then over time, it just becomes the name, and you hear it so often that you just kind of settle in. I don't know Dan at all. I've never met him. He's got a tough situation. His fan base doesn't like him. Yeah. And so I'm sure Dan is smart enough to realize no matter what he picks, they're not going to like it. And here's the best part about sports. All they have to do is win.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Winning covers up a lot of warts.
When they could name that team the Washington Wimps, and that city will love them with all their heart if they go and win the Super Bowl in 2 years.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Great soundbite, too. Okay, so we're going Corona outbreak, NFL edition. Tennessee had 4 players now, 5 personnel members test positive for COVID. So this happened after the game against the Vikings, but no positive tests in Minnesota. Facilities are closed down. Coaches have been on record now saying, like, there's no excuses. Even if we only get to do a walkthrough Saturday night in the hotel we're playing, and we're going to give it our best shot. Somewhat insensitive. People have their own thoughts on that, whatever. But now the game's being postponed to a date
Tuesday,
that will be determined. Yeah, potentially Tuesday is kind of the news we're getting. Where are you at with that one?
I'm very, very, very happy that I don't have to be in a position where I have to make these calls during this pandemic. I've had to do them for my own business, and that was hard enough. But to think that the world is watching and all those opinions, and that's just a lot of pressure. That being said, I think that human safety has to be first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. On the flip side, thank God, as we continue to collect data, and we don't know anything really yet about COVID, but I would say that I'm less scared than I was a little while ago. And I think every other league is, to me, I'm very comfortable. I love this Tuesday thing, for example. First of all, I like Tuesday period because it lets me watch on Tuesday. A Tuesday, give me 7 days a week of the NFL.
Of course.
Number 2, I'm glad to see they've postponed it. I do think they've got to test. Tuesday's good in kind of the way with the rapid testing and things of that nature. And I think the NFL is doing the right thing by moving it. And I think you're going to see some, disturbance like the MLB did. And I anticipate that. And I know that the schedule, I don't know how, but I know that the schedule was built in a way to have some flexibility and some understanding. And we're gonna go through it here. Like, look, I am religious about the New York Jets, but not at the expense of someone's health and well-being. Because one of the things that scare me is what happens when we're 67, but we got COVID. It seems like there's enough chatter of effects to your body that concern me enough to not take it lightly. And so I think I like what they did. I was happy to hear that today. I thought that was a good move.
No doubt. And then when you start postponing games and switching up the schedule, now it's starting to affect other teams. So I'm curious to see how this unfolds. How about that? GaryVee knocks it out of the park. Man, some great insights, some business knowledge, talking about the Jets. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button, and we'll talk to you soon.
Like, share, subscribe, at Mark_Sanchez, at Fourth and Forever, Instagram, Twitter, all that. You know where to go. Thanks again for having us, and we'll see you soon.